The story begins with a group of students, one of them called Jamin speaks for the other person to say it straight away, otherwise he wouldn't. Being late, and how he didn't say anything. Jaren says he's leaving, but the guy gets angry and decides to attack him, but Jaren, it's easy to kick the guy. Throwing it on the floor, Jaren says he doesn't care. Does it matter if he wants to be a bully or that he wants him to be but he wasn't? To pick a fight with him where his life. It was already difficult enough, the guy says too. He didn't be for saying he is. Chip now then next you man. Hits Jaren from behind with a bat and this guy asks how he believed he was in that place alone. Of decoration then the other that had been hit by Jaren asks if it hurts. So he tells Jaren not to show off. And that it's time for him to start. Understand where he belongs at school gym. Tell him to shut up, angry guy. Ask him if he wants to continue being beaten. With that he says see how far he goes. Continue pretending to be like this and like this. Tell others to end Jaren. Then this guy realizes he had some balls of energy floating in after this a strong light appears the others. They ask what happened and then our protagonist called Kanga appears. And he says that 20 years have passed and even so, nothing has changed. Kong says that looks like the uniforms are still there. The same the guy asks who is this? Tramp and Kong ask how they. You can say that to a veteran, but he says whatever where it seems. They only had a momentary pencil. Then he asks why they don't end it for now and man asks who cares if he's a veteran. Telling him to mind his own business and fall. Outside he asks how the slut is feeling. Getting into this place questioning if he. I would like to catch it too. Kong asks if all the boys these days are rude, so Kong says that if he will continue to be an asshole he will end up hurting him. The guy gets angry and decides to attack Kong but Kong dodges without difficulty so he says he should have stopped while he was taking it easy saying that he thinks this guy is the type who only learns from blow so he starts to conjure a other magi but it doesn't work and he wonders why his spell doesn't. Did it work? The angry guy asks. Why is everything so ridiculous these days? Where a guy is trying to pretend to be someone in life and now there's a bum who is acting like an idiot after. This says that you had no choices and using the pen one of the fingers hits one. Hit that guy throwing him backwards. Then Kangi asks who will be the prosperous and after defeating all others. Jaren finds all this incredible where this guy had finished off the Latvian valleys with just one finger then he says that even these guys weren't special. Knew how to fight very well. And he wonders, who is this guy then? He thanks Kong then Kong asks, what was the date of that day? And with that I found out it was 2021 and Kong says that was already invoked in 2016, so it should be around 2036 since 20 years passed, but he says he doesn't care. Because on the other hand it will be better with. So he says he is going to leave and asks Jaren be careful, and don't turn into a bag of blow from others after already going to see Kong. Walking away he wonders who Rouse is. This guy then Kong tries to use his teleportation magic, but it doesn't work either so then it back asks Jaren if he had money saying it looks like it returned very quickly and can't materialize no magic. Kangi speaks who was in a different world and just got teleported back to Earth for some personal reasons. But it seems like there was a problem with the mana management system during his process because if he were functioning normally it would have been teleported to the front of your home and it didn't matter how many times he tried to channel it was not working. Right so Jaren asks about how much he needs and Kong talks about 2,000. Ones with this Kong gets some money, and he says he has to remember to pay him later since I had taken that guy's cell phone number. Boy Kong thinks it's been 5 years on Earth, but luckily for a lot of time has passed, and he believes that his family must be able to recognize him. Where he is currently 24 years old, and shortly afterwards, to his surprise, he comes across the military unit and asks if anything is happening. Next thing he asks 2 girls who are going through what those soldiers are moving forward to that subway. They start laughing, saying that it is normal for soldiers to be protecting human entry, so they ask if by any chance he is someone fugitive from North Korea, and Kong ask what these girls were. Speaking without choices, he decides to take one bus, but it seems there were none soldier at another entrance. Then he decide to take a look, but then he discovers that it is stuck. However, he ends up finding it in key. When entering, he wonders if the subway isn't the system was working, then informs that she entered the first exit from the Danjo of the Gashon station, and with that, he discovers that those girls were really talking about a gel for real, and the system informs you that the Danjo has already been completed, and with that the basic monsters would be summoned, and he wonder what really happened in the land in these 5 years, and after he tried exit, the system says that it does not have no stones returned, so he realized that monsters can appear at any time. Anytime now choose him. We'll have to find a stone return, and then the monster tries attack him, but Kong manages to dodge him. Tries to use his magic, but it doesn't works, and when he sees that monster, he asks what the monster should being an Alpin is doing in this place. But first, he should deal with this creature quickly. Kangi catches one piece of iron, and he hits that creature and says that even though he doesn't manage to perform your spells, mere Drate is no peril for him. Then several other Drabites appear, but he manages to defeat them all, and he was a little relieved. Managed to deal with these creatures. Then he comments that it would be dangerous if there are more monsters stronger, and after this means that the system informs you that it has risen from level, leaving Kong a little surprised. And when opening your status screen, it discovers that his power has not disappeared, but he returned to level 1. He says it's not that difficult to stay longer strong when one is full of these creatures. Then analyze their class. It realizes he is still a necromancer. He also got attribute points of skill in exchange for level content 99 to 1, and his skills were transferred. And after he sees that there is combo box and achievement stores, he wonders what this is, so he discovers that the combo box can combine materials to create an item, but his entire inventory had been reset too. And opening the store achievement, realizes that this did not exist in Alpha, and then he wonders if this is like shopping online, and he says this is getting fun. Kong says what he needs now are skills, and what he has to look for a stone of return, and what a good thing he has one to tech summon skeleton soldiers to fight the monsters, but you need 10 achievement points to activate these abilities. Then Kong speaks that he has no achievement points enough now, and with that he will just adjust your attributes by while after he distributes his points in his attributes, he feels that his body is much better now, and that your objective was clear, because currently he has 5 achievement points and he needs 10 points to get the search ability to find the stone return. Then Kong says he will having to kill 5 more DRA bits to get the ability to search him. I was determined to find the stone and get out of this dungeon. Then Kong eliminates several of these creatures, and he climbs to level 3, and I open the store. It buys detection ability and search skill. Then he uses the search ability, but it seems that the return stone was not around and that there was only one more place for it in the. However, it was full of monsters. I knew it would be dangerous to fight alone against those monsters at once, and that moving alone wasn't really your thing. Style with this, he decides to open the store again and buy a level of skill, achieving your ability to skeleton soldier evocation is then. He decides to split his 10 points of attribute and put in magical power and domination. After that he summons some skeletons, and so begins his hunt in the. However, he realizes that the soldiers' skeletons in their current state are not par for deaths. However, it will be the enough if they manage to block the initial advance, because it is the most dangerous of them, and so he succeeds. Attack when dead movements has been slowed down. After he uses the corpses of these creatures to summon new skeletons, and with that strategy he manages to eliminate all the creatures. Then when using their skill again, he succeeds. Find the return stone on the side of outside the jaw. A guy who was in the bathroom realizes that the jaw entrance it was open, so it gets quite worried because that would be really bad for him, and with that he decides to call the rescue. But to his surprise, soon Kong appears, and this guy wonders if he is and awakened somewhere else. The guy had obtained several jewels, and he says that bastard from the guild, he risking his life on the rides Masmer, they just sit charging absurd fees, and that this was very unfair. He said he would be a idiot if you reported this to the office shopping, as he will get the double the value or of these items if he sell on the black market. But for your surprise, he hears a voice asking how much did he earn doing this. Then he questioned who is it. Was a woman who said be a girl who came after him. She was part of the war on guide, being the captain of the main group. She says that her name is Urine, and she questioned how he uses to steal bloodstones from Mamura from her guy's guild. Questions that this is quite bad because this troubled girl came after him and the time, and asks if he already knows her. Then she says he could come with she very quietly. He thinks that since reached this point he will have to look for a chance to escape, and so he use your Jiro's skill to try distracting her, but it doesn't help her. Quickly ons, and then she decimate him without mercy. After that, Yorin receive a message from the security team informing that an unregistered person I was at the station portal while I rang, and she would have to go to the place to confirm in time. Then ask yourself who would be this fearless guy who was of the angel returning to Kong. He thinks that this world is no longer what it was, knew where it now exists, but dies and monster. Then he wonders if it's not like Planet Alpha anymore. So Kong, if you wonder what happened in these last 5 years, Kong also wonders what happened to your family, and the get home he has a surprise. Then he wonders if this really it was the right place because his house was missing. He wonders about this large building that stood in its place home, so he thinks it was too late to keep looking for your family. Furthermore, he had not eaten still nothing after he ate some of it. Feels like you've finally returned to Earth. But he still had a problem, that money, and he didn't have the place to sleep calm. Then he wonders if he will then sleeping on the subway. However, soon remember that the Sao Paraíso dos subways monsters now, to your little surprise. Sometime later, Jaren enters the place where Kong is. Then scared, Jaren asks what this guy is doing here. Quickly Kong talks to him, saying he arrived on time because he was already going to call him. Jaren asks Kong why he was the Looking, then Kong asks if Jaren's parents are at home, and Jaren questions why he is asking this. Kong says that there was that incident that he had saved, and that he also has something he would like to talk about with him. Jaren says that his parents already passed away, and Kong says that's great. He quickly says that that wasn't what he wanted to talk, so he wants his condolences. Then smiling, Kong calls Jaren to go soon, and Jaren asks where. So Kangi says where, but he wants to. His house is clear. The next day, Kangi meets one of his own teachers, who are quite surprised. For meeting you again, he asks, where has Kong been all this time, saying that after he disappeared, everyone they thought he had died. Then Kangi says he almost died, mentioning that he had his reasons, but I needed to see student records. Then Kong asks if everything was okay for him in the classroom. Valso go even Jaren, and says he was lucky in the day before because a random guy appeared out of nowhere, so he calls Jaren to continue where they left off. Jaren asks him not to create confusion in the room class. However, the bully gets angry, questioning whether he understands the situation at hand, who is there, and then Kong arrives and tells them to stop. The bully starts to tremble, saying that he was the guy from before and after. Kangi tell them. As the students follow, they ask who that person, and the other says he heard say that he studied at that school, and which looks like he's going to fight with his gang right now. So the other one asks if he's going to fight alone, and he comment that this guy has to be crazy. After Sun Yuk tried to hit K with a blow, he easily deflects, so Sun Yuk asks how is this guy can dodge his attacks with so much ease. After Kong continued dodging Sun Yuk's attacks, do you think this type of guy exists so much in alphas on Earth, and that these people believe in their own strength inside and cause problems, and he doesn't even know what your place is? Then Kangi thinks that the way this guy age remembers Cassius and Alphan's alliance. Then Kangi remembers that Cassius called he was Death's Nekom, and Cassius was a depraved sorcerer of souls, and that this guy tried to frame him with names different and extending the alliance to invade your territory. The bully asks if your colleagues will stay standing and watching, suggesting that you should go up to Kangi together. Then Kangi thinks there is only one answer for this type of guy, because it is necessary. Treat them the same way they treat others, with overwhelming strength. After Kong hit them all with one coup, he asks why they were stunned, saying to them, come to on top of him again. Then for a short time, then Kong says that these guys are idiots and make a lot of noise, but to his surprise, then he ends up seeing that his mother had arrived after they had reunite with their mother. Explains that 5 years after he disappeared, all metro stations around the world transform into dungeons simultaneously. This was called dungeon shock, and that his father ended up dying while was returning home because he had been caught by the shock of the marbles. Then his mother says she had to raise her little sister alone, and like them never. They were rich, but problems came one after another, and Sua was quite sick. Then the situation started to get worse quickly. Since then, every day it's been torture for her. After them, when they get home, their mother says she's going pick up your sister from school quickly. So she tells Kong to stay home and don't go out anywhere. So Kong confirm and ask her not to worry. After her mother leaves, she comes back and realizes that this place was very small for the family to live, and felt the problems your mother faced to have the responsibility of taking care of the house alone. And there was a pile of cash near the wall that contained something that had belonged to his father. He felt that she couldn't play outside, and He understands that everything has been difficult for her, and her heart becomes very heavy. After that, then shortly after, your mother returns and asks Sue to say hi. For your big brother, then Kangi is happy to reveal it and asks if she still remembers him. His mother asks if she wants to play with her brother a little, where she would do something really tasty for them to eat at nightfall. Kong think that in the last 20 years, for some, no one knows why he was summoned to Alphen, and that in that world it was like if it were a game where to survive in the planet they needed to face the cruel monsters. He fought so desperately that it couldn't be compared to anyone else, and how, as a result, he became a necromancer of maximum level. So after the journey without, finally he met with the administrator, Dimensional, and returned to the land of Sem. Regrets all this was for return to Earth and meet with his family again. He hoped find joy like he had before, but the land where he returned had changed, and because of that his father died and his family, which had gone bankrupt. He knew this couldn't continue, so where he would have to earn a lot money because he had survived in Alphen for the good of the members of his family who were waiting for him. So Kong says he can overcome something much more challenging than Alphen. The next day, the first thing Kong did was buy a Sarala, and he knew that he needed to earn a lot of money, so the only thing he could do now was to become an awakened. Kong sent a message to his mother saying it's going to be busy for a while due to his school. He believes that this will make his mother angry, worried less about him while he makes a lot of money. Kong says that if I felt bad asking for favors, but he could pay off the debt later. Then he calls Jerem. However, he ends up discovering that Jane gave him a wrong number than somewhere else. Jaren thinks he didn't even thank him, man, because of him the gang dreamed that you don't mess with him anymore, and he thinks that guy was kinda crazy but didn't seem like a person bad. So he says he hopes that guy has found his mother and sorted out his things. Then for yours surprise, when you get home, Kangi already was inside, and Jaren asks how is that he entered. Kong says he saw the password when he was entering, but if he had something to ask him after. Kong reveals to him that he is awakened. Jaren is surprised when find out, but he thinks that's the end of it, to be expected because Kangi was strong too much. Kangi so ask him if awakened he made a lot of money. Jaren answers yes, despite varying dungeon to the dungeon. Kong speaks to Jaren, say everything he knows, and he says that first it needs to be registered as awakened in the association to power enter the, and that he can only go in the dungeons if associated with a Jaren guild. Says he can too work at the association or in the office, and Kong asks if it's not possible to win as much money as possible if he complete a dungeon alone. Then Jaren says yes, but it's better if join a guild since that's a lot dangerous. Kong asks if it's not necessary pass a test to enter these guild, where he didn't have time for that because he needs to earn as much as possible quick money, and Jaren says that at least he needs to be part of a group because the dungeons are dangerous. True, but first it asks to download an application, and when picking up the cell phone, Kong is surprised and asks if this is the cell phone his family used before. Kong asks if he wasn't a model. No, and Jaren says that this cell phone has more than 4 years. Kong then begins to remember that the seller said that this was the most popular model of the day, current ones being very durable than many alarm clock they used. After Kangi realized that was rolled up, he says that when find that seller he will end with himself being very slow. Jaren shows the dungeon forum where he You can find information about them and even book it, and Kong asks if he can find MA-Sim and challenge them. Through this forum, Jiren says that first he needs to register as awakened where to enter the dungeon. It will just become Monster King's food. Then you see there is an entry fee, and Jiren says that the entrance fee is the same. That is a low-rank mother must be around 100,000 years. So Kangi looks at Jiren and says he's going need to borrow money. Again, a short time later in the room, exams awakened examiners were surprised and wonder what was happening and what would that be. Black aura. Then Kangi shows her necromancer power, so everyone stays not believing what they are seeing. One of the examiners think they have seen every type of skill, but this is the first time he sees a necromancer. Guys, thanks to everyone who has watched this far. I ask that leave a like and subscribe to the channel, in addition to leaving a comment saying if we must continue with our adventure. This helps us a lot continue producing our content. Thank you to everyone who has watched so far, and until the next adventure,